Ceci n'est pas une vidéo, an analysis of Rene Magritte. Rene Magritte is a Belgian surrealist artist. He went through many phases with his art, including making advertisements, as well as a brief time in Impressionism at the beginning of his career, but he is best known for his amazing surrealist works. His artwork is stunning, thought-provoking, and aims to question our perceptions of reality. Magritte doesn't alter subjects beyond recognition like some other surrealist artists, but rather presents them in a new, enlightening way. The first painting I'm going to be discussing is The Son of Man. This was painted in 1964, which was towards the end of both his career and life. An important detail of this painting is that it is set against a sea. In Magritte's early childhood, his mother drowned in a river. As a result, sea reoccurs throughout his work. Much of surrealism was based off of the thoughts of Sigmund Freud. He believed that repetition was a sign of trauma, explaining the repeated symbol of the ocean in Magritte's work. The most important detail of this painting is the apple that obscures the face of the man. Magritte actually intended this work to be a self-portrait, and he is the featured man in the painting. When asked about this painting, Magritte said, "Everything we see hides another thing. We always want to see what is hidden by what we see." Several of Magritte's work contain apples and bowler hats, showing the repetition that was so important to Freud. It is also part of a series featuring people with obscured faces. Another painting in the series features the same man with a bird obscuring his face. Another small detail of the painting is the right arm of the man. It is bent backwards and looks almost as if it was broken. His idea that our world is filled with hidden meaning is just only one of his fascinating psychological messages he conveyed through his work. The next painting I'll be discussing is Familiar Objects. Magritte spent a few years of his life in Paris, France, working with many other surrealists. It was at this time that he emerged as a leader of the movement. A key element of surrealism is juxtaposition. This painting is an excellent example of juxtaposition, which is used to point out differences in a painting. The men in the painting are all the same. They're boring. They look almost as if they were factory made. They show no expression. They're dull and not very colorful. On the other hand, the objects near their faces are bright, unique, and lively. While most paintings that use juxtaposition do so in an effort to reveal the beauty of nature and people against man-made objects, this painting does the opposite. It makes the men appear boring and lifeless and gives life to the objects. Magritte might have been making a statement that the wealthy men, judging by the attire of these featured people, lack personality and character despite their successes. This painting, The Treachery of Images, is Magritte's most famous work. He became known for incorporating words into his paintings. The words read, "Ceci n'est pas une pipe." This translates to, "This is not a pipe." Magritte was pointing out that this is simply a painting of a pipe. It's not actually a pipe, just a representation of one. This is one of his most paradoxical works. This work highlights the gap between language and physicality. What we say is not always what actually is. And a common theme in Magritte's work was perception versus reality, and he wanted us to challenge the ideas of everything we saw around us. This painting was also created during his time in Paris, working with other well-known surrealists. The last painting I'm going to be discussing is The Empire of Light. Of all of the Magritte's paintings that I researched, this one was my favorite. It has a serene, mysterious, and almost mystical quality to it. There is a series of 3 similar images titled The Empire of Light. It's actually named after the poem L'Empire des Lumières by Paul Nouget. Both Nouget and Magritte are from Belgium, and they ended up being close friends. This is another work that utilizes juxtaposition. The street is dark, the buildings are lit up as they would be at night. While a viewer might look at the painting and at first glance think this was painted at night, the bright blue sky and the fluffy white clouds add confusion. This bright blue sky, instead of enlightening like the day always does, adds confusion. Surrealism rejects rationality, which makes sense that the painting is very contradictory. It's a characteristic of many surrealist works that while they don't always make sense, they are very thought-provoking and contain a special meaning. Lastly, I'd like to compare Magritte to other surrealist artists. I chose to compare him to one of the most famous surrealist artists, Salvador Dali, and his most famous work, The Persistence of Memory. This was painted in 1931 in Paris, so it was around the time Magritte was in Paris as well. Dali distorted the images of clocks to where this painting is sometimes referred to the melting watches. Magritte's work was more realistic, and he didn't distort reality. He just put well-known objects in a paradoxical situation to where they were given a different meaning. Just as Magritte used C and the bowler hat and the apple to convey symbolism, Dali also used symbolism in his paintings. Both the clocks as well as the ants in the bottom left corner of the painting are symbols. The ants are a symbol of decay. Dali also used repeated symbolism, as the watches are featured in many of his paintings. Overall, surrealism proves that a subconscious approach to art can make beautiful creations that come from the depths of an uninhibited mind. These are the sources I used to research my presentation. I hope you enjoyed my presentation and learned something interesting about Magritte and his desire for us to challenge our perceptions of reality.